Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Lily, and I am so happy that you are here with me today. In today's video, I am going to show you how I cut down the spine, especially when I'm using packaging that is just really wide in that spine. So you can see the difference between the left and the right hand side. The one on the right I have already trimmed down to the size that I like, which is about 1 3/4 inches. But that one on the left hand side, that is a big baby. And that spine, or the future spine, right now it's still just a piece of cardboard from packaging. It is 2 3/4 of an inch, and it is just too big. And I don't like journals that are that wide in the spine. I started out doing that back in the days, but I have now found a size that I am very comfortable with, and that could be anywhere between 1 and 2 inches, no more than 2 inches, preferably 1.5 to 1 3/4 inches. So you could see here 2 3/4 inches. That is just excuse me, that is just too big for me. Too big. But guess what? If you like working on big, chunky spines, then you do you. You do what is most comfortable for you, okay? I'm showing you what I like to do, and I thought if I do this, I thought I'd bring you along so that I can show you how I trim it down, and hoping that you might find this useful. All right, so you can see here, I've already trimmed this one down to size. My journals are also 8x6, at least the majority of them are. I have made other sizes, but when I take packaging and the packaging is large enough to where I can trim it down to 8x6, that's usually what I will end up doing. And then I also like to mark what it is that I'm doing so that I have a guideline and so I don't lose my place in line, because I have made the wrong cuts. So this way I can follow my own instructions. All right. Okay. There are some packaging boxes that I have turned into junk journals that are much smaller than an 8x6. Well, I shouldn't say much smaller, but they are smaller than the 8x6, maybe 8x5, and they're still super, super cute. I'm showing you this biscuit box. It is, I'm just showing you the comparison between the two. This one is really flimsy, really thin cardboard. I will use it. I just have to reinforce it with some heavier cardstock. But this right here, these boxes with the white cardboard, these are really, really good. Really good boxes. They're nice and sturdy. And so they're going to become even sturdier once I add all of the layers to the inside and to the outside cover. But I really do like this packaging. And this one here is, of course, toiletries or personal hygiene product. And the other one that I will show you in just a moment, it is food packaging, but they're nice and sturdy. Whatever it is that you use, whatever type of box, I've used cereal as well. Once you add your inside layers, like I said, whether it's cardboard or fabric or cardstock, it's going to reinforce the cover. And so you use what you have, and this is what I have. I'm currently working on 4 different junk journals. 2 of them have this white cardboard, and then the other 2 that I don't show in this video, I believe, are cereal boxes. Okay, so I am going to mark where I'm going to make a cut in the spine to reduce the size. Now I'm marking at 1 3/4 inches. And then I'm going to connect the lines, draw a line, because that is going to be my cut. And I'm only going to make one cut. I'm not going to cut the excess. What I'm going to end up doing is making that cut on that straight line, and then I'm going to overlap the 2 pieces. That's it. Super easy. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. So I'm keeping my spine at 1 3/4 inches, and the excess, which is about 3/4 of an inch, that is going to be omitted. So we're not going to use that, but I am marking it there just so it's clear to me what it is that I'm doing. And the other thing I'm also going to do is make it visible so that I can clearly see what direction the 6 inches is going to be and what direction the 8 inches is going to be. Again, 8 inches in length and 6 inches wide. It is my preferred journal size. And I'm writing it down on the inside of the cover because it needs to be visible, especially when it comes time to making the cuts, because I will lose my place if it's not clearly visible. I've done it before. I'm also going to cut down the perimeter of the journal, and you can see how the edges are pretty wonky because when I cut that box down, I just used a pair of scissors, and so you could see the edges all the way around are uneven, but I will show you in just a moment how I just take my paper cutter and just trim all the way around. So I am now just making the cut with my blade. And the reason I don't just put it in my paper trimmer is because I don't have an even edge at the top or the bottom to line it up on the paper trimmer. And I just don't want to take a chance of me cutting it crooked. So I'm just going to use a ruler in my X-Acto, and now I have an even cut right down that pencil line. And now that I have these two pieces, I'm going to take advantage and trim all the way around. And for that, I will be using my paper trimmer. And this is one that I don't bring out very often because it is big. But because this paper is, this packaging is a lot thicker, this paper trimmer is perfect for the job. So I actually had to make room on my table so that it could fit. I even brought out my big cutting pad too. So yeah, I made room for this, you guys. So what I'm doing here is, now that I have an even cut at the top where I used my my blade, so I'm just using that as my guide so that I can make 2 even cuts on both sides. And I'm trimming it down 8 inches first. So first I'm going to make sure that the length is 8 inches in length. And I know I turned the paper all kinds of different directions. I flip it upside down, and I kind of was losing my place here. So before I made any wrong cuts, I marked it because I had forgotten that step. So that way it's visible to me, so I know exactly the dimensions that I need to cut it down to. Again, using that top edge as my guide because that is my straight edge. I'm just trimming down on the sides, making sure that I have nice, even edges all the way around. Eight by 6 is a size that I am very comfortable. I have made journals all kinds of different sizes. And over the years, I have come to learn that 8 by 6 is the size that I prefer. But regardless of the size that I'm using, I hope that you find this useful for the journals that you're making from repurposing packaging into whatever size you want, okay? So I'm just now going to trim a sliver on that right edge because it was still kind of wonky there. And again, just checking to make sure that it is at that 8-inch mark. And now I've got even edges on both sides. And now it's time to make the cut to 6 inches. And I measure that on the paper cutter. I fold the flap that is my spine, and I use that edge at the 6-inch line and then just make my cut. So now this part of the cover is 8x6. And I'm going to repeat the same process for the second half of the cover. And right now I am just double checking to make sure that my measurements are where they need to be. You guys, I will double check, triple check, quadruple check, and just to make sure that everything is the right size. Because if it starts out wonky, it's going to be wonky all the way through until the very end, and then you're not going to be happy. So double, triple, quadruple check if you have to. And sometimes, even when I do that, you know what? It's inevitable. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes. I have, where I've cut things down too much, and my 8x6 journal turns into an 8x5 journal just because of the cuts. I've also stitched in signatures upside down and pages, in the wrong direction. So it still happens. So sometimes, no matter how careful we are, we're still going to make mistakes. But remember, it is only paper. We can fix it. So doing the same thing, here is my the second half of the cover. And you could see, again, I'm just pointing out that the edges are really uneven, but I'm going to use that edge as my guide, which is where I cut it with the blade. Making sure it is 8 inches, trimming off a little bit on each end. There's my 8 inches, and now I'm going to trim down to the 6-inch line. And you can see how I fold over the flap, line it up at 6 inches, and make my cut. I've had this trimmer for a really long time. I actually picked it up at a yard sale like 10 years ago. It cost me $1. And it's because the lady couldn't get the lever to unlock. It was jammed, and so you couldn't lift it to feed the paper underneath to make the cut. And it was truly jammed. She was selling for $1. She says, if you can figure it out, you can take it. I couldn't figure it out, and I ended up breaking the lock. So it doesn't lock in place anymore, but I don't think it needs to lock. And I was okay for $1. So I've had it for a really long time. All I've ever done is replace the blades. So goodbye. So keep an eye out, you guys. You never know what you could find at yard sales and at thrift stores. Right now, I am just checking to make sure that both the front and the back of my covers are even. And there are some areas that just need to be trimmed a little bit just so it's even all the way around. So I'm just going to cut a little bit from that lower right-hand corner. It looks like it just comes out at an angle just a little bit. The paper may have shifted while I was cutting it. So you could see there how it was a little bit uneven. So now it is even. And I will double check again, triple check, quadruple check just to make sure. There's my front and my back cover looking good. So set that aside, and now it is time to glue these two together to make my spine. And that will be the foundation or the base of my junk journal cover. Now, you could, if you want to, cut that flap off. But then you have to use tape and other adhesives to fuse it back, to fuse it together. I'm not going to do that. I am just going to add glue to the smaller flap and then overlap it or underlap it. That is the easiest method that I have found. And it really doesn't make a difference that part of that spine is going to be doubled up. It's going to be a little bit thicker than the rest of it. That's not going to interfere. It's not going to matter. It's not going to get in the way, because you are going to continue. Once you continue to work on the junk journal covers, you're going to line the inside, whether it be fabric or cardstock. You're going to continue to reinforce the inside of the cover, and you're going to do the same to the outside. In my case, I am going to add fabric to the inside and the outside of these junk journals. So having that extra flap overlap, it's not going to make any difference. I hope that makes sense, you guys. I hope I'm coming across clear. So I doubled up on the adhesives. I used glue stick and the art glitter glue just to make sure that it really sticks, because I don't want it to come apart. I'm just grabbing some scratch paper to put underneath, because I don't want to get glue on my cutting mat, which I rarely use because it is a giant. It is a giant cutting mat. It's one of the reasons why I don't use it, because I don't have that much space on my tabletop. But I made room for this project, you guys. I really did. So see how I have overlapped it, and now I am just lining it up, making sure that it is even, and then just smoothing it, pressing it down nice and firmly. And just, that is it. It's just overlapping. And the smaller flap is glued underneath, so it's on the outside. That way, your bigger, your one, like in my case, 1 3/4, it's just gonna keep that size. And there it is. That is it. This has been the most easiest method for me. And I hope you give it a try, especially if you have come across boxes. For example, if you buy cereal at Costco, those boxes are like 6 inches wide. And you're going to have to cut those down, unless you want a 6-inch spine. And so this is, I think, one of the best methods. Let me know what you think. Or have you given it a try? Or do you just leave it as it is, and maybe you like that 2 3/4 inch spine, which I've seen tons of journals with really thick spines, and they look great. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. It's just when it comes to my journals and the way that I like to make them, these are the sizes that I prefer. And I was just showing you kind of flexing the cardboard back and forth. I really, really like this white cardboard. It is very sturdy. It's really nice. And there we go. Now I have my 2 junk journal covers, the beginning of the junk journal covers. And each of them with a 1 3/4 inch spine. So I can't wait to finish working on these. I'm not going to get detailed or get really into the process. I have worked on Christmas junk journals just recently. I will have those videos down below. I invite you to go take a look at those. Those were so much fun to make. And so I'm currently working on 4 of them. This is just 2 of the covers. I just wanted to show you how I cut these down. The other 2 are just fine. They are from cereal boxes. I don't need to cut those down, but these were a little bit too wide. So I hope you have enjoyed this process. I hope you find it helpful. Thank you so much for sticking around. I appreciate you so much. You guys take care, and I will see you next time. Bye!